last class, we have started principal stresses derivation. For that, we have taken what is the principal stress, what is the principal plane, right? And what is the importance of that particular principal plane and principal stress. So in this, simply we have considered a body which is subjected to two mutually perpendicular stresses which are accompanied by a shear stress. Then in that particular body, we have taken one plane. On that particular plane, whatever may be the stresses acting, we have considered, right, that oblique plane. And on oblique plane, whatever may be the stress acting along the plane is considered as tangential stress, and perpendicular to that plane is considered as shear stress. Right. Then in order to find that particular principal plane, initially we have just calculated what are the various forces, various stresses acting. From those various stresses, we have calculated the loads. Right. P1, P2, Q1 and Q2 are the loads we have calculated. Then we have calculated the total normal force, which is nothing but P1 cos theta plus P2 sin theta plus Q1 sin theta plus Q2 cos theta. Similarly, we have calculated the tangential load, whichever may be acting on plane FC, right? So that is nothing but P1 sin theta minus P2 cos theta minus Q1 cos theta plus Q2 sin theta. After calculating normal force and tangential force, then we have calculated what what will be the normal stress and what will be the tangential or shear stress which is acting on that particular plane FC. We have taken FC. So by substituting those values, maybe in the last class, we came to conclusion here it is clearly visible rather than that. Yeah, we have calculated what will be the normal stress. Normal stress is sigma 1 plus sigma 2 by 2 plus sigma 1 minus sigma 2 by 2 cos 2 theta plus tau sin 2 theta. And similarly, we have calculated the shear stress or the tangential stress is sigma 1 minus sigma 2 by 2 sin 2 theta minus tau cos 2 theta. Maybe we have just ended at that particular location in the last class. We have calculated the normal stress and we have calculated the stress which is acting or the tangential stress across the section FC. These are the two things which we have finished in the last class. Now we need to calculate what will be the position of principal plane, because if you know the principal plane, then whatever may be the stresses acting on that particular principal plane will be treated as principal stress. So from our fundamental definition, we know that a plane with zero stress is called as shear stress. A plane with zero stress is called as principal. A plane with zero stress is called as zero shear stress is called as principal plane. So from that fundamental thing, for a principal plane, certainly sigma t, that is the tangential stress, should be equal to 0. So in the last one, we have calculated the tangential stresses sigma 1 minus sigma 2 by 2 sine 2 theta minus tau cos 2 theta. So it should be equated with 0. Right, sigma t equals 0. Sigma t is nothing but sigma 1 minus sigma 2 by 2 sine 2 theta minus tau cos 2 theta is equals to 0. So from that, just by rearranging the terms, what we are getting? Sigma 1 minus sigma 2 by 2 sine 2 theta equals to tau cos 2 theta is going to other side of the equal. So it is positive. Tau cos 2 theta. Now sine 2 theta by cos 2 theta is equals to tau by sigma 1 minus sigma 2 by 2, or else it is 2 tau by sigma 1 minus sigma 2. We know that sine by cos is nothing but tan. So sine 2 theta by cos 2 theta is equals to tan 2 theta, which will be 2 tau by sigma 1 minus sigma 2. So here, by equating the tangential stress with the 0, just we got the value of tan 2 theta, which is nothing but 2 tau by sigma 1 minus sigma 2. So once we got that, tangent of any angle in right angle triangle, tan is nothing but opposite side by adjacent side. So here I have considered one right angle triangle. Tan 2 theta is equals to 2 tau by sigma 1 minus sigma 2. So 2 tau is opposite side to the angle and sigma 1 minus sigma 2 is adjacent side to the angle. So in this particular angle, whatever may be the derivation, just we got tan 2 theta equals to 2 tau by sigma 1 minus sigma 2. Just I have formed one right angle triangle in which I have represented 2 tau is opposite side and sigma 1 minus sigma 2 is adjacent side. So is it clear? Simply what we did, we want to calculate the position of principal plane. Principal plane is a plane with zero shear stress. So whatever may be the derivation we got for tangential stress, that is equated with 0. By equating with 0, we got one thing, tan 2 theta is equals to 2 tau by sigma 1 minus sigma 2. So in any right angle triangle, tan is nothing but opposite side by adjacent side. So here, height of opposite side is height of the triangle, adjacent side is base of the triangle. So here opposite side is represented as 2 tau and adjacent side is represented as sigma 1 minus sigma 2. Is it clear? Now, from these two things, I want to calculate the diagonal. How I can get the diagonal? By using Pythagoras theorem. Here diagonal square equals to opposite side square plus adjacent side square. By using Pythagoras theorem, we can get that. That is NL square is equals to NM square plus ML square. So here, see the diagram and substitute the values. ML is given as sigma 1 minus sigma 2. So sigma 1 minus sigma 2 whole square plus 2 tau whole square. Totally it is sigma 1 minus sigma 2 whole square plus 4 tau square, which is equals to NL square. But NL equals to square root of that value. NL equals to square root of that value. That is square root of sigma 1 minus sigma 2 whole square plus 2 tau whole square. So the roots are that diagonal will be either positive value or negative value. Positive value in the sense either it is sigma 1 minus sigma 2 whole square plus 4 tau square positive, or minus root of sigma 1 minus sigma 2 whole square 4 tau square. Right. Minus square is also positive, plus square also positive. Here the value of this becomes sigma 1 minus sigma 2 whole square plus 4 tau square. So either you can take positive root or negative root. Both are the values for diagonal. Now what I am doing, I am considering both the roots for it. So under first case, I am considering the positive root of the diagonal. Right. So diagonal I have considered as sigma 1 minus sigma 2 whole square plus 4 tau square. When I have considered this, by using this diagonal, I am going to calculate sine 2 theta and cos 2 theta. Sine 2 theta equals to opposite side by hypotenuse. Opposite side is 2 tau and hypotenuse is positive value of the diagonal, that is 2 tau by root of sigma 1 minus sigma 2 whole square plus 4 tau square. Right. So simply we got the two roots. I'm considering the first case, I'm considering the positive root. By considering the positive root, I'm calculating sine 2 theta and cos 2 theta. Sine 2 theta is opposite side by hypotenuse. Opposite side is 2 tau and hypotenuse is positive value of this, that is root of sigma 1 minus sigma 2 whole square plus 4 tau square. Cos 2 theta equals to base by hypotenuse. Base is sigma 1 minus sigma 2 and hypotenuse is root of sigma 1 minus sigma 2 whole square plus 4 tau square. So from available quantity, that is tan 2 theta, I have calculated the hypotenuse. After calculating the hypotenuse, we got values of sine 2 theta and cos 2 theta. We have calculated the values of sine 2 theta and cos 2 theta. I think it is clear for you. Now I have all the values, sine 2 theta value there, cos 2 theta value there. What for all these values? Here we have the values. We have what it is, major principal stress and minor principal stress. How we can get the major principal stress? How we can get the major principal stress? Simply so we need to get the value of major principal stress. So in order to get that particular value, just we are going for the equation sigma 1 plus sigma 2 by 2 plus where we have that value already. We have calculated the value for here. This is the stress major principal sigma 1 plus sigma 2 by 2 plus sigma 1 minus sigma 2 by 2 cos 2 theta plus tau sin 2 theta. In that particular equation, we are substituting the values of cos 2 theta and sin 2 theta. Now you just substitute those values. Value of cos 2 theta and value of sin 2 theta. Here we got the value of sin and cos 2 theta. Simply substitute in this particular equation. Cos 2 theta is sigma 1 minus sigma 2 by root of sigma 1 minus sigma 2 whole square plus 4 tau square plus tau into sin 2 theta is 2 tau by root of sigma 1 minus sigma 2 whole square plus 4 tau square. So we are substituting the values of cos 2 theta and sin 2 theta in the equation of major principal stress. When we have substituted those values and simplify it, and you can get the final expression. Now you just do each and every step in your notebook. You have taken that equation, we are substituting the values. So by substituting these values, you just take the LCM. LCM is, this is the LCM of these two. Sigma 1 plus sigma 2 by 2 is available plus half into here. When we have taken the LCM of this, what we are going to have? This 2 is available. You just see it. LCM of these two quantities is sigma 1 minus sigma 2 whole square plus 4 tau square. So after taking that particular LCM, here it is sigma 1 minus sigma 2 whole square plus here 2 is available. When we have taken the LCM, it will be 4 tau square. Now here it is sigma 1 plus sigma 2 by 2 plus half into root of sigma 1 minus sigma 2 whole square plus 4 tau square by this is 2 into root of. So here in the numerator and denominator we have same values. If you have considered these are the x, sigma 1 minus sigma 2 whole square plus 4 tau square are the x, it is x square, and this is x. So this quantity will be cancelled here. So we are getting ultimately sigma 1 plus sigma 2 by 2 plus half into, maybe you understood this particular step. How you can understood? You put it on paper and solve it. You can come to the final conclusion. Don't copy it. You take this equation, and in this particular equation you substitute the values of cos 2 theta and sin 2 theta and simplify it. By simplifying, you can have the equation for major principal stress. Just I am giving 2 minutes time, you substitute and experience that particular answer. Don't copy it. At least I hope 50% of the people will solve it. I'm waiting for 2 minutes. You just go ahead. You have the equation for normal stress. In that particular equation of normal stress, by substituting sin 2 theta and cos 2 theta values, which are calculated by considering the positive root of diagonal, you can have the value of this particular major principal stress. You just substitute the values and solve it. Don't copy it blindly. Yeah, have you solved it? So by solving that particular equation, we are getting the final expression for major principal stress is sigma 1 plus sigma 2 by 2 plus root of sigma 1 minus sigma 2 by 2 whole square plus tau square, or else sigma 1 plus sigma 2 by 2 plus half into root of sigma 1 minus sigma 2 whole square plus 4 tau square. Both the equations are similar, right? Here we have taken half from the root. In the second equation, we have taken that half into the root. When we have taken half into the root, it becomes 1 by 4, right? That's what the only difference. Both the equations are same. After getting this equation, we have simplified this. So this is the equation for major principal stress. Now similarly, what is our job? I am considering the case number 2. In case number 2, I am taking the negative root of diagonal. Positive root of the diagonal is plus root of sigma 1 minus sigma 2 whole square plus 4 tau square. Negative root of the diagonal is minus. This is the diagonal of this right angle triangle. So from that negative root of the diagonal, now you calculate the values of sin 2 theta, cos 2 theta. Again, you substitute those values in the equation of normal stress and simplified it. You can get the final expression for minor principal stress. I am not showing the value to you. Here, this is the major principal stress is available. Whatever may be the procedure you have adopted in order to calculate the major principal stress, you adopt same procedure. So in order to get this minor principal stress, consider the negative root of the diagonal. Right, from that negative root of the diagonal, you calculate sin 2 theta as well as cos 2 theta and substitute those values in the equation of normal stress. There, whatever may be the equation you are going to get, that is the equation for minor principal stress. You do it. I don't want to show you that slide to you unless you have finished it. Only the thing you have to write, the minor principal stress will be calculated by substituting or by considering the negative root of diagonal. Come on. All of you put it on paper. Case number 1, I have considered the positive root. Case number 2, you need to consider the negative root. By considering the positive root, whatever may be the value we are getting, that is considered as major principal stress. For negative root, it is minor principal stress. All of you solve it. I will ask you the answer. After solving, you can unmute your mic and tell me the answer.
Sir,
Yeah.
sigma 1 plus sigma 2 by 2 minus square root of sigma 1 minus sigma 2 by 2 whole square plus tau square.
Very good. Only in place of plus, you can get negative between the two terms. Very good. That is the minor principal stress. So major principal stress is sigma 1 plus sigma 2 by 2 plus root of sigma 1 minus sigma 2 whole square plus 4 tau square. Whereas minor principal stress is sigma 1 plus sigma 2 by 2 plus half into root of sigma 1 minus sigma 2 whole square plus 4 tau square. Very good. So now you can have this. So diagonal is negative value. So sine 2 theta is opposite side by diagonal. That is 2 tau by minus root of sigma 1 minus sigma 2 whole square plus 4 tau square. Cos 2 theta is adjacent side by hypotenuse. You can have cos 2 theta. Now we are substituting those two values in that particular equation. So by solving that equation, ultimately we can have the final expression is sigma 1 plus sigma 2 by 2 minus half into root of sigma 1 minus sigma 2 whole square plus 4 tau square. This is the minor principal stress. So for getting these two values, we did the total derivation. We have spent at least 1.5 hours in order to get these two stresses. These two are called as major principal and minor principal stresses. So this is the summary of this. We have major principal stress as sigma T1. Here you just remember the notations. I'm just representing major principal stress with sigma T1, minor principal stress with sigma T2. And the shear stress, maximum shear stress is, that is the average of algebraic difference of these two. Sigma T1 minus sigma T2 by 2 is maximum shear stress. Maximum shear stress is sigma T1 minus sigma T2 by 2. You can have this equation. These are the three important equations we have to remember in unit number 1 in order to solve the problems under theories of failures. Because the theories of failure, as we have discussed earlier, the theories of failures will come into the picture whenever a component is subjected to different types of the loads. Under those circumstances, how the component is failed, we have to know as per that particular theories of failure, and the equations which we are going to develop the theories of failure, they are in terms of principal stresses. They are in terms of principal stresses. and also the constants. The constants which we are used are Poisson's ratio, Young's modulus, modulus of rigidity, right? All these terms will come into the picture. So in order to just discuss the theories of failure, first we have finished the concept, that is principal stresses. These are the three important equations you have remember. Major principal stress sigma T1 is equal to sigma 1 plus sigma 2 by 2 plus root of sigma 1 minus sigma 2 by 2 whole square plus tau square. Similarly, sigma T2, and the third equation is major shear stress is sigma T1 minus sigma T2 by 2, which is nothing but sigma 1 minus sigma 2 by 2 whole square plus tau square. These are the three important equations. Whereas sigma T1 is major principal stress, sigma T2 is minor principal stress, and tau max is maximum shear stress. And sigma 1 is stress, sigma 1 and sigma 2 are the tensile stresses which are acted already with the body, whichever maybe we have considered on that particular body. The stresses whichever may be acting, they are sigma 1 and sigma 2, and tau is the shear stress whichever may be acted on this particular plane. So these are the sigma 1 and sigma 2. This is the shear stress, right? So this is the equation. Same equation we can use for different situations also. So here these are the equations which develop when sigma 1 and sigma 2 are tensile stresses. Sigma 1 and sigma 2 are tensile stresses. Suppose a body is given, on that particular body, one compressive stress, one tensile stress are acting. So whatever may be the tensile stress we have, that will be considered as positive. Compressive stress is considered as negative. Suppose along x-axis you have tensile stress, it is sigma 1, and along y-axis you have compressive stress, then it will be sigma 1 minus sigma 2. Right, depending upon the nature of the stress acting on the body, we have to consider the value, sign value for this. If the stresses are positive, both sigma 1 and sigma 2 are positive. If the stress along the x-axis is positive, sigma 1 is positive. Along y-axis is compressive, then we will replace plus sigma 2 with minus sigma 2. Or else, along x-axis it is compressive. So here the equation is minus sigma 1 plus sigma 2. Here these are the equations which are developed for a situation where both the axial stresses are tensile in nature. They have considered as positive. In any case, in any situation or in any problem, if they are giving compressive stress is acting along one axis, simple thing, there is no need to go for further derivation. Simply, wherever we have the compressive stress, in this particular equation, you show with negative value. That's sufficient. So you have to remember these three important equations. So if the derivation is clear, this is the most important derivation. You might have solved the problems by using more circle in your mechanics of solids. That is the graphical method. This is the analytical method. In all the situations, we may not go for graphical method. That's why you try to remember these formulae corresponding to analytical method. Is it clear now? So we have spent around 1.5 hours in order to discuss this principal stresses, which is most important thing for our theories of failure. So now we are going for the most important topic in unit number 1, that is theories of failures. So already I have discussed what is the importance of failure, what is the failure, why we need to know the failure, right? Always we must know about the failure, because if you overcome the failure, certainly your component will have long life. If you are knowing how the component is failed, then if you overcome that failure, certainly you are going to produce a sound component. That's why here the people should know about the failures of the component, how the component is failing. Already we have discussed the component is failed by, there is the elastic failure is there, the failure is by yielding, right? Failure by fracture, all sort of the failures we have taken earlier. Now here these theories of failures which we are considering, or there are so many theories of failures are there. How these came into the picture? Here these theories of failures are proposed by various people when a component is subjected to different loading conditions, right? If a component is subjected to tensile load, then there is no need to say how the component failed. Certainly it will be failed. After some expansion, there we are going to get the neck formation and the component will be failed. Certainly there we are having the failure due to tensile load. But in some of the situation, not in some, most of the situation, the components are subjected to different combinations of the loading. Under those circumstance, how a component is failed, right? That will be just so many people have done so many experiments and they have proposed so many theories. From those theories, these five are very, very famous. First one is maximum principal stress theory, which is proposed by Rankins. Second one is maximum shear stress theory, which is proposed by Coulomb's, Tresca, and Guest theory. It is most famous as Guest theory. Third one, maximum strain theory, which is called as Saint Venant's theory. Fourth one, maximum total strain energy theory, which is called as Higgs theory. And fifth one, distortion energy theory, which is famed as Henke and von Mises theory. These are the five important theories. There are so many other theories also there, but these are the five important. Out of these five also, we are using maximum three theories of failures only. So whatever may be the equations we are going to get by using these theories of failure, they are combination of principal stresses, constants, and few mechanical properties. Few mechanical properties. So when we are observed the first part of these equations, maximum principal stress, maximum shear stress, maximum strain theory, total strain energy, and distortion energy theory, these are the key elements in that failure. So whenever they are proposing the theory, they have taken the criteria of the failure. Rankine is taken, the criteria of the failure is maximum principal stress. Haig is taken, total strain energy. Henke and von Mises are taken, distortion energy. By taking those criteria of failure, they have proposed the theories. All the five statements are almost all similar, only with the type of the criteria. Today I will just give one or two important theories. In the next class, let us go for remaining theories of failure. So first theory of failure is maximum principal stress theory, which is proposed by Rankine. You should remember both the names. Okay, in some of the examination, they will ask you solve this problem according to Rankine's theory. In some of the examination, they might have given you solve this by using maximum principal stress theory. So you have to remember a theory with both the names. What is the principal criteria, or who is the person proposed that particular theory. Both are very, very important for us. You should remember a theory by name as well as the criteria of failure. Both the things are very, very important for us. Okay, first theory is maximum. So here the criteria of the failure is maximum principal stress. That is nothing but major principal stress, which already we have proposed today. That is one value. So what this theory, or what is the statement of this particular theory? The theory states that clearly, if you remember one statement, all other statements are similar. The theory states that the failure of the mechanical component subjected to biaxial or triaxial stresses occurs when the maximum principal stress reaches the yield or ultimate strength of the material. Very, very simple thing. Here only you have to remember two things. One is property of the material. Second one is induced property of the material. Means whenever a load is acting, what is the stress induced, and basically what is the stress or what is the capacity of the material available. If you are going to get these two, from the two, simply we can say whether the failure is occurred or not. Simple thing. Here in my pocket I have 100 rupees. One product is 95 rupees, right? Whether I am in a position to purchase it or not, certainly, because I am having 100 rupees. That is the property of material. Due to forces, only 95 megapascal is induced. When all the forces are acted, induced stress is 95 megapascal, and the property or the capacity of that material is 100 megapascal. So what we can say, certainly the induced stress is less than the property of the material. There is no question of any failure. So in simple words, what we are going to do, we are comparing induced stress with allowable stress of the material. Induced stress, how we are getting the induced stress? Induced stress will come in a product from the loads whichever may be acting. Here they have given clearly. Here the failure will be occurred. When we are getting the failure, a component which is subjected to biaxial or triaxial stresses. A component is subjected to biaxial or triaxial stresses. So what it is, the theory states that the failure occurs when maximum principal stress, that maximum principal stress is nothing but the stress which is inducing due to the action of that biaxial or triaxial loads. There a component is subjected to different loading condition. Due to that, whatever maybe the resultant stress is induced in that particular body, whenever it reaches the yield or ultimate strength of the material. This yield strength and ultimate strength, what they are? They are the properties of the material which we have calculated from standard tests which are conducted in the laboratory. Right. For each and every material, we have the properties. When I have taken mild steel, what is its yield point? What is its ultimate point? Right. We have calculated already in our laboratory. Right. When we have taken mild steel, what is the shear strength of that particular material? Already we have calculated. Right. What is the impact strength of the material? We have calculated in the laboratory. For each and every material, we are calculating the properties of the material by using laboratory test. That is the property of the material. Only the failure will be occurred whenever induced stress is reaching the property of material. The property of the material, we may take it as allowable stress also. Generally, that is the allowable stress of the material, but here I have quoted as yield or ultimate strength, but we have discussed about factor of safety also. So from that factor of safety, we are getting the working stress. That's why generally what we are going to do, we are comparing the values. That is, one side induced stress. What is the induced stress here? Here I have taken sigma T1. Sigma T1 is nothing but major principal stress. How we are getting that major principal stress? Whenever a component is subjected to combined loads, whatever may be the resultant stress we are getting, that is the induced stress. In this criteria, we have taken maximum principal stress. That is nothing but major principal stress. So whenever major principal stress are reaching the property, that is reaching the yield or ultimate strength of the material, failure will be occurs. So what will be the worst condition? Up to what stage it will avoid the failure? Up to what stage it will avoid the failure? Induced stress is less than or equal to the property of the material. There is no question of failure. You remember the thing. Induced stress is less than or equal to ultimate stress or yield stress, there is no question of failure. Whenever individual stress is greater than the property of the material, there we are getting the failure. So what we are going to conclude, if the individual stress is less than or equal to allowable stress, there is no question of failure. If it is crossing the allowable stress, certainly the failure will be occurs. So the worst condition which I am taking is sigma T1 is equal to sigma y by Fs. It is for ductile material, because we have taken the criteria of the failure for ductile material is yield point. The criteria for failure for brittle material is ultimate point. So when up to this particular condition, sigma T1 is less than or equal to sigma y by Fs for ductile material, no question of failure. Similarly, sigma T1 is less than or equal to sigma u by Fs, there is no failure. When individual stress is greater than this value, certainly the failure will be occurs. So if you know the criteria of the failure, by overcoming that criteria of the failure, we will produce the sound products. So this is the first theory of the failure. From first theory of the failure, we have concluded that sigma T1 is equal to sigma y by Fs. Now what is sigma T1? Sigma T1 is the individual stress, that is major principal stress. Where is that major principal stress? This is major principal stress. Sigma T1 is equal to sigma 1 plus sigma 2 by 2 plus root of sigma 1 minus sigma 2 by 2 whole square plus tau square. From this, we are going to get major principal stress. If it is equal to allowable stress, where is the allowable stress? Sigma y is the yield point. Yield point is divided with factor of safety to get the allowable stress. Up to this particular condition, there is no failure. If sigma T1 is greater than this value, certainly the component will be failed. This is with respect to ductile material. This is with respect to brittle material. So you have to remember this equation. Sigma y is the property of the material. Fs is factor of safety. Already we have discussed about what is the factor of safety, what are the factors affecting factor of safety, what is the importance of factor of safety. All these things are taken. Right. So the sigma y by Fs will gives us the working stress of that particular material. If individual stress is equal to working stress, there is no failure. Whenever individual stress is greater than working stress, certainly the failure will be occurs. So you have to remember that thing. In order to overcome the failure, you have to keep the individual stresses must be less than allowable stresses. The worst condition is they are equal. That is sigma T1 is equals to sigma y by Fs. This is the first theory of the failure, which is maximum principal stress theory or Rankin's theory. As per this theory, the failure of the component subjected to biaxial or triaxial loads or stresses occurs when the maximum principal stress reaches the yield or ultimate strength of the material. So if you know the failure, by overcoming the failure, you can produce a sound product. That is the main motto of getting the theories of failure. So second one, now you can write the second statement. In the second statement, what is the criteria of failure? Criteria of the failure is maximum shear stress. Criteria of the failure is maximum shear stress. So what is the statement we can write? Here we are comparing shear stress. One is individual shear stress, other one is property of the material, that is also shear stress. Right. If individual shear stress is less than or equal to what it is allowable shear stress of the material, there is no question of failure. If individual shear stress is greater than allowable shear stress, the failure occurs. So we are writing in our sentences, then the theory states that the failure of the mechanical component subjected to biaxial or triaxial stresses or loads occurs when the maximum shear stress at any point in the component becomes equal to the maximum shear stress in the standard specimen of the torsion test when yielding starts. Right. What is it is? It is very simple. The standard specimen of tension test is used in order to calculate the shear stress of the material also. So whenever individual shear stress is reaching the allowable shear stress of the material, the chances for failure will be increased. The chances for failure will be increased. So here, the principal component which we are equating is tau max. Tau max is individual shear stress and allowable shear stress is tau. Generally, the tau will be calculated so here you can have tau values where it is. Yeah. Tau max equals to tau. This tau max is individual stress. This tau is allowable stress, allowable shear stress. That allowable shear stress, how we can calculate? That allowable shear stress will be generally 50% of yield stress. 50% of yield stress. That's why here I have taken it is sigma y by 2 into factor of safety. By using this particular equation, we are just going to design a component. So ultimately tau max is equals to tau. The tau max equals to tau is individual shear stress is equal to allowable shear stress. That allowable shear stress is yield stress by 2 or 50% of the yield stress will give us allowable shear stress, right, which is divided with factor of safety. So how I have tau max, how I can get the tau max value? Already we have the equation. Tau max is equals to sigma T1 minus sigma T2 by 2, which is nothing but sigma 1 minus sigma 2 whole square by 2 plus tau square. This is the tau max value. So simply by equating the tau max with tau, tau is allowable shear stress, which is calculated from standard specimen. That standard specimen, I have taken the tension test. In the tension test, we are going to get yield point. Yield point divided by 2 will give us the shear stress, which is just divided with factor of safety to get allowable shear stress. So the individual shear stress is equated with allowable shear stress in order to get the dimensions of the object. Or else, in order to say about the failure, tau max must be less than or equal to tau to avoid the failure of the component. Or in the worst conditions, tau max must be equal to tau. These are the first two theories of failures. I will discuss remaining theories of failures in the next class.